Hello everybody and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself George bringing you another new review, and this time it is another home media review, another 4K ultra high definition disc review, which is for Rocky 2, of course released in 1979 and a part of our new mini-series where we're going through each of the Rocky steelbooks, going through the 4K re-releases and giving my thoughts on the jump from Blu-ray into 4K. There's been a bit of controversy in the past week, which I'll be getting into as well. And as always with these reviews, we want to hear from you in the comments below. So please do comment your thoughts. If you've picked up this disc, if you've picked up the box set, maybe you saw our first review from the first Rocky film, let me know your thoughts. I'd be really interested to hear those. It's been amazing getting a lot of comments from people. Those looking forward to the box set, those talking about the artwork and some of the other stuff. And as I said before in the past, we're quite new to doing this home media stuff. So any recommendations, any other things you'd like to see in these, of course, let us know and we'll see what we can do. And if you want to follow us, you want to find out more about what videos are coming next, obviously you can guess which Rocky films after Rocky 2. You can go get us on our social medias, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy with a link to Redbubble in that description below. But as I mentioned, we are talking about the Rocky steelbooks, and I have my Rocky 2 disc right here with me. And this is going to be interesting, so I'm just going to put this up here. We had a lot of comments last week in regards to the artwork on these. Now, I didn't show the back of it. Last week, I guess it's worth saying with the Rocky review, I was very lucky that the delivery came early. This week it's come late from the pre-order, so I wish I could have got this done over the weekend, but unfortunately I hadn't. It arrived this morning. I've just finished watching it at the time of recording. There's not much special features, so I'm going to skip that section again this week for this one. If you want special features, you're best off sticking to the Blu-ray you already have. There's nothing new on these 4Ks. And I'm just going to take a quick look at the reverse artwork as well. Of course, we've got Rocky and Adrian. Obviously, that scene's not in the film. But obviously, that's artwork we've all seen before. But yes, controversial, these covers. We had one person who sent me what he's going to be using his own versions, which looked amazing. And certainly, aside from the steelbooks, the box set looked terrible, its artwork. And I don't mind these steelbooks. I don't like the Rocky 2 cover, if I'm going to be honest. But these are going to sit in that shelf behind me. You're going to have the sleeves. They're going to be in order. They're going to be numerical. So when it comes to steelbooks, I like having the set more so than anything, which I'm still a bit nervous about Rocky 5 and 6. We had a few people commenting last week saying, I think we'll just get a box set of Rocky 1 to 6. I hope 5 and 6 are released individually, the OCD side of things more than anything. But enough about disc artwork and whatnot. Let's talk about Rocky 2. And obviously in this time, Creed 3, of course, has come out. So maybe let me know your thoughts on Creed 3 as well if you've gone to watch it at the cinema. But if I start talking about Rocky 2, this transfer, I was quite excited for this. And obviously we've had the Creed. I've seen all 3 Creed films since watching Rocky for the review last week. So the reviewing order right now is Rocky 1, Creed 2, Creed 3. Sounds like a terrible football song. And then it's going to obviously be Rocky 2, 3 and 4 with these home releases. One is due each week. Now, for Rocky 3 next week, I've already been charged, which hopefully means the delivery comes early again. Because that never happens a week before pre-order where they come out the account in the UK. So if I'm lucky, we'll get a Rocky 3 review this weekend. But sticking with Rocky 2 for the time being. If you want my thoughts on the film, I absolutely love Rocky 2. Rocky's one of the best series ever made. Now Creed 3 is out, we can finally say it. It's been discussed online. Ria's positive POV, if anyone doesn't follow him, I recommend it. He's always said to me the exact same 3. If Creed 3 slaps, that's 8 out of 9 great films in the series. I am fully there with him. Creed 3 has had an amazing opening weekend. It's an amazing series, and it's just great to see this continuity of, I guess, I don't want to call it the Rockyverse, but these Rocky films heading into Creed. But my thoughts on the Rocky 2 as a film, I absolutely love it. I've spoken in the past, not critically as such, but one of the theories I've always had approaching these Rocky films is a lot happens in Rocky 2. Aside from him winning the belt, we have obviously the ending of the first film, the hospital. We have him getting proposed, him getting married, having the baby, Adrian in a coma. There's a lot happening in his personal life. That's like a lifetime's worth of stuff in the first, say, hour and a half of this film. And in the past, that's something I've struggled with. I think, did they go all out thinking there'd never be a third film, which is very fair to say. And that's how I've always viewed it as someone that's obviously, been around these decades after, they first released. It wasn't born until 96. And kind of watching again today was really interesting is that, the Creed films are focused on this concept of legacy, the personal lives, the lives of the father and whatnot. It was really interesting approaching this in a new way. Not necessarily just because of Creed 3, but just watching it in a different order. And it kind of made me love this even more. So my thoughts on the film, I'm going to keep it to a minimum. We have reviewed them in the past on the channel. But as far as Rocky 2 goes, it's an absolute banger of a film. But if I'm going to talk about 4K, is this something you should pick up? Is that what people wanted to find out? To me, the answer is still yes. If you're a fan of the Rocky films, you need to pick this up on 4K. Rocky 2 is a really interesting one. So there's been some reports in the last week that people's sounds aren't working on the box set. There's audio glitches on the Rocky 2 file. I was a bit nervous. I'd already been charged. It was in delivery. I said, okay, if there's any audio dropouts, I'll be keeping my eyes peeled. I want to find out if there's any issues. Mine was absolutely fine today. So my review is from a functioning disc. If you've bought box sets, if you've had issues, please comment them. I believe Warner Brothers are looking into it. And I just want to get that out there for anyone that is also, if they've got issues with their box set, if they've got issues with their 4K disc, comment it. It's being looked into. The Digital Fix had a good article on it. So I recommend people to go out there. But aside from that, my experience with this today, the audio track, obviously, as I said last week, it's going to be the same for these. There is, of course, no Dolby Atmos remaster. It's got the original version that has been on the Blu-rays. Some versions, I believe, have the original 70s cinema aesthetic, but obviously, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't know that directly off of this. The reviewing conscious is more so my experience watching, say, the disc I had. And with the Dolby audio, it still sounded great. It's still 5-1 on the speakers. It picked up perfectly, especially when you get to the big moments, when the music's kicking in, the soundtrack's in, Bill Conti's score. We've got the fights, the punches. It sounded perfect. And visually, oh my, I think this looked better than last week. And this is kind of in a weird predicament with these Rocky reviews. Of course, as you get nearer and nearer to modern day, the camera equipment looks better, the budgets are going to go up, the set design's going to go up, and I'm curious about watching Rocky 3 and 4 to see where it kind of goes with this, but with this disc, watching this 4K copy that's owned it before, there was more things I'm starting to notice now, and it's not necessarily just the colours popping, but it's some of these incredible, certainly in this one, the slow-mo shots on the punching, when you're seeing the beads of sweat leave the face, but it's visible, it's quite scary how accurate it looks. Can't take my mind out of thinking this is meant to be from 1979. And it once again looks better than so many other things. And I know there's been loads of videos on other channels in the past of, why does 4K look better? Something I've always had this mindset with is that digital's not going to look that good on 4K. A lot of it was shot in 1080p. They're going to have to be remastering that, upping that to 4K. I think the Star Wars prequels are a very fair answer to that. And the same box set with the originals, that jumps out a lot. And that's why these older films are going to be really interesting seeing as time goes by. And I watched Training Day for the first time with its 4K release the weekend. That looked incredible. That's one of the best looking 4K discs I've seen in a very long time. First time I've seen the film as well. And I personally started thinking this mid 90s to early noughties is going to be the sweet spot for these 4K discs. Because there's no grain as such. It's the camera from the time. And it's obviously so modern, dated wise, these reels. Sort of 20 years past things like Rocky and Rocky 2. The cleanup per se is going to be easier to do on those 90s things. And as I said, this is before the 1080p rise. So when I'm going back to these films from the 70s, my experience is very different in trying to see, okay, what's going to stand out, what might not stand out, what am I looking forward to, what am I not. And certainly with this one, I did have an issue actually with some of the grain. And it's not normally an issue I would call out on a disc review like this. Towards the start of the film, it's not just the hospital scene, maybe the first half hour, there's a fair few shots where the grain is too visually distracting at this point in time. And now some people might be throwing their hands up saying, hey, this is how it was. I don't know about that, but it felt like a filter on an editing bit of software that the grain felt really extreme in early parts of this. And I was struggling, if I'm being honest, to take my eyes off. Why does this look so awful? But the rest of it, pretty much soon after, and I don't know what's going on there. Is it a case that there's old reel that maybe hasn't translated as well? I don't remember anything like this on my Blu-ray box set when I had it in the past. And that's what I was a bit concerned by. But as it started going, after the half-hour mark, it just started to look perfect again. Suddenly there was no issues. You have the right amount of grain. Of course, there's no scrubbing. But when you get in these long shots, of course, the training montage in Philadelphia, it just looked and sounded amazing. And that's what I want. If you're putting money into these discs, into these remasters, if you're putting money into a series you've seen before, maybe you've owned it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, you're as a right as a fan to know what to expect from this. And this is why I'm taking these reviews in a different direction to the normal 4K Ultra HD stuff, because it's more about thinking, is this worth dipping into? And I've kind of said that already, that yes, I think this one is. But of course, alongside it, you're getting a great film. And I think this is where it's going to start coming into it, saying I'm very excited to see Rocky 3 next week. And the really big thing for me is when you get to the final fight, not just how good it looks. I mentioned the slow-mo stuff, but the colours popping. Is it the choice of the black and yellow shorts? Is it the ring in sync with it? Is it the colour scheme they've gone for the film? I've seen some people trying to criticise the first film, saying that there's like a teal effect to it. I didn't notice it as much. Obviously, see it side by side online, it looks very different, but seeing a compressed image on Twitter looks very different to watching on a proper TV. That's something I maintain with stuff like that. It's something I guess people should look into themselves. Anyone can edit any photo that's on social media without sounding like an absolute nutter. I've seen it in the past. You'll see it. People do it on trailer stills. They'll like screenshot a trailer from their phone in like a compressed image and be like, look how bad the CGI is. It might not be great, but it's not as bad as it's going to look on their terrible phone. And I've kind of felt that with some of the criticisms I've seen from some discs, not saying all of them. And as I said, this disc does have some problems within its own right. But personally, for me, I think there's enough here to warrant it. I think it's a good transfer. As I've said in the other ones, there's not really any special features that are new. You can't really tuck into anything like that. We know Stallone is working on this Rocky 5 and 6 cut of his that's been spoken about. I, for one, will be interested to see them come out. But it's just really fun and fascinating going to it each week to see what they're going to be like, what it's going to sound like. And I think with Rocky 2, it nailed it again. And I just think it looked perfect. They found their sweet spot, and I don't know the process of remastering these. Is it an old remaster? Some 4Ks were remastered years ago. Star Wars, another example. They've been sat on Lucasfilm shelves waiting years for them to finally release it. They waited till Episode 9 came out to do so. And the Rocky ones, I certainly feel that they were building towards this massive Rocky box set, and Warner Bros. Was like, no, we've got to get out for Creed. And there's certain things that maybe I'd be curious to know, did they rush some things? You know, this audio issue I spoke about that some people are having, and it was on the Rocky 2 one apparently, they're having it as part of the big box set. It's the same black disc that we've had on this. Someone mentioned in the comments last week. There's no difference in the disc variety. Is it the same one ported and chucked in the steelbook? Probably, but for myself, this worked for me. Is it in good? I say investment. I'm not investing in that sense of the way, but for this, for Rocky in 4K, yes, I'm down with this. I think the disc worked well. If you're a fan, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. Are you going to double dip? Have you had it in the past? Are you waiting for the right upgrade? I think this is it. And I'll be really excited to go back to Rocky 1. Yeah, it was a week ago. Once I've done all 4 to see, okay, how is the time jump going to work? Because you could definitely tell when you've got the Rocky 1 footage at the start and the Rocky 2 footage now. And as I said, is that 3 years worth of camera and equipment development from the 70s? I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. Someone I'm sure does. But that is going to round out this review today. As I've said, it isn't the review I wanted to do. It took a bit longer to get this disc, to get this video out. There's an insane week coming. We've got The Mandalorian tomorrow. We've got the Oscars on Sunday. We've got Oscar reviews. We've got 65. It's more of a struggle to get these videos out at the moment. But if Rocky 3 does drop early, it will be up early and it will have a much better rhythm to it. So thank you to everyone that's been watching this review today. As I said, let me know your thoughts, things you want to hear more from in these Rocky reviews. We are all down for that. We're still quite new to doing home media reviews. We've got a playlist where you can see other ones. We started with Top Gun last year. But you don't just do new films, you do older releases as well. So anything you'd be curious about, do comment, let me know. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. See you on the next one.